Donald Trump just mailed in his latest ballot. And that was just before calling mail-in voting mail-in cheating. Meanwhile, his administration is pushing for the Supreme Court to tighten the rules surrounding mail-in voting. But don't worry, everyone. It isn't what it looks like. It's obvious that being president, he hasn't been in Palm Beach County, Florida to vote. It really isn't that complicated.
So, I didn't know I was going to be here tonight. I am supposed to be prosecuting a war, but the war's going very well.
Oh, okay, so he's spent significant time in Mar-a-Lago, you say. Huh. Okay, well, maybe it has to be that while he was in Mar-a-Lago with a war raging, he was too busy to go vote in the time that he's been in Florida. Oh, did TrumpGolfToday.com showing that he's been golfing pretty much every weekend this month? Okay, fine. Golfing might be more important than one of America's most sacred rituals, voting in democratic elections. And maybe I've looked at Trump's stance on mail-in ballots, maybe completely wrong. Maybe I've misinterpreted. So let's hear what Trump has to say actually about mail-in ballots. Maybe there's something I missed there.
Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt.
Oh, corrupt, you say? That's not very ambiguous. Okay, fine. But that was like 7 months ago. And right now, we know that the Supreme Court is deciding on a few key guardrails about mail-in voting, so maybe Trump said something different this week about mail-in voting. Maybe he's more open to the idea if there were more restrictions in place. So what did he say?
Brought to my attention today that we're the only country that does mail-in voting. Mail-in voting means mail-in cheating. I call it mail-in cheating.
Okay, well, all right, fine. Mr. President, you have a lot of explaining to do about this one. I mean, you're not the type of guy to ask that the rules apply to everyone else but you, right? Oh, I've got it. I know exactly what this is because my thinking on this had been really, really unclear, and it all makes perfect sense to me right now. Look, you remember when Donald Trump may have been mentioned in a few of those pesky Epstein documents. Remember what Mike Johnson said about Trump's involvement?
It's been misrepresented. He's not saying that what Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down.
That's right. My new theory here is that Donald Trump is participating in an FBI sting under the watchful eyes of Kash Patel and his FBI. And look, what I think is going on, Trump and the Republicans are out to show that our elections are under siege and that criminals are voting in our elections using mail-in ballots. And who better to test that theory than a 34-time convicted felon?
After more than 9 hours of deliberations, a jury of 12 New Yorkers delivered their historic verdict, guilty on all charges. That made Donald Trump the first former president in U.S. history to become a convicted criminal.
And yeah, I know, I'm having some fun here with a guy that absolutely does not give one iota of a crap about you and how you vote. He's only interested in keeping himself and his billionaire pals in power even longer. And let me give you a little quick background here. Early in-person voting in this Palm Beach County, Florida special election, it ran through Sunday. Sunday, when Donald Trump was physically at Mar-a-Lago. The polling place is in the same zip code as his house. He could have gotten in the motorcade, driven 4 minutes, walked in, voted in person, made it a photo op, and that just works. And here's the biggest part of this. Florida doesn't automatically send you a mail-in ballot. You have to request it. So essentially, Trump requested the cheating option, if you're using his words, from the state of Florida when it came to voting. And then you have to look at how the ballot actually got to Palm Beach County. It was hand-delivered by a third party. not dropped in a mailbox, not sent through USPS. Someone physically carried Trump's ballot to the elections office. So let's get this straight. The man who says mail-in voting is corrupt because random people could touch and sign your ballot in their living rooms had someone else handle his ballot and deliver it by hand to a government office. I mean, he invented an entire new category of voting here. Not in person, not by mail, but by butler. And the day before Trump cast this ballot, the Supreme Court was hearing their oral arguments on whether or not states can continue counting mail ballots that arrive after Election Day. Trump's own lawyers were in that room arguing that mail voting should be drastically restricted. And we know this isn't the first time that Trump has mailed in his ballot. He's done it multiple times. When NBC asked him about it previously, he said, quote, "I happened to be in the White House and I won't be able to go to Florida and vote." That was his excuse. But that was when he was in D.C. He is currently in Florida, where he's registered to vote at a house that is in Florida in the same zip code as his precinct to vote. And he still did a mail-in, well, actually not even a mail-in ballot, a butler-in ballot, while publicly demanding that Congress pass the Save America Act, which is a massive elections overhaul bill specifically targeting mail-in voting, and which he's currently holding the TSA airport funding hostage to get passed. And look, Republicans, they're going to have an explanation for all of this. They're going to say that Trump's criticism is directed at states that use universal mail-in voting, not at individual voters who can't get into a polling place. Fine. So Trump, who was physically present in Palm Beach County, where the polling place was open, who had the resources and the motorcade and the Secret Service detail to get there in 4 minutes, chose mail, and not even mail, because he individually couldn't get to that polling place. That's his excuse. That Donald Trump at his house could not get to a polling place 4 minutes away. This is a man who can deploy ICE agents to airports by posting on Truth Social, and he can't arrange a trip to the ballot box. And this is the part that isn't funny. This is not a gotcha about his personal hypocrisy. This is evidence of something more important. This entire Save Act campaign, the Supreme Court arguments, the rhetoric about mail-in cheating, none of it was ever about fraud. And we've covered this over and over and over again. The fraud rate is 4 cases per 10 million in mail-in ballots. Trump knows this. He uses the mail-in ballots. His party uses the mail-in ballots. The campaign against mail voting is not about protecting elections. It's about which voters get access to them. And according to data from the 2024 election, Democrats use mail-in voting at higher rates than Republicans. 1 in 4 Democrats versus 1 in 5 Republicans. Elderly voters, working parents, people with disabilities, and people in rural areas where the polling place is like 40 miles away and they don't have a motorcade to get them there. These are the voters that lose when mail-in voting gets restricted. Trump, meanwhile, gets to keep the butler option for himself. You get your 4+ minute drive or nothing. And we're covering all of the things that the people that are doing them are hoping you don't notice. That's why we ask that you hit the subscribe button right below the video and smash that notification bell so that you actually see anytime we post. Because we're not slowing down. And YouTube, they don't want to show you this content unless you tell it to. Every like, every comment, every share, this is how this channel reaches the people who need to hear it.